All right, we are going to go ahead and get started today with walking through the Hawks Learning student platform with an emphasis on how this can be used for a fully online course. So upon creating their account, students will sign in and they'll be brought to the dashboard, which is the home page, where they'll be able to quickly and easily see the lessons that you've picked out as an instructor for them to complete. That will be broken up by what's due today, due this week, and due later. And students can jump right into a lesson just by clicking on it from the dashboard, or they can select View Course if they want to see a full to-do list that will break out all of their assignments and the dates that they're due. This could also include not just homework assignments, but any quizzes and tests that you have assigned as an instructor. By default, it will break it up into what's due today, due this week, and due later, as you can see here. But students, or instructors rather, have the ability to customize these headers. So if you preferred to organize this by unit or module, you could organize that as well to really control how this content is presented to students. But to start on a lesson or a homework assignment, students simply click on it and they're going to be brought to our 3-mode learning path. Oftentimes, I think students are encouraged in other platforms to jump right in and start answering questions. And we really want to deliberately set this up so that students are first getting an idea of what's going to be on the assignment, then practicing it with some help, and finally completing the homework assignment from there. And so they're going to start by jumping into the Learn mode, which will be the textbook content for whichever lesson you've assigned for students to complete. So it will give them any definitions, examples, key phrases, rules, properties, anything they need to know to prepare for that homework assignment. And it's also where we've included videos. And this will be particularly important in a distance learning course. And it's something that we've been putting a big focus on recently at Hawks and have recently updated a lot of these videos. And you're going to see generally 2 types of videos here in the Learn mode. The first will be an example level video, which will be embedded in the Learn screens of an instructor solving this specific example step by step. So these are going to be typically a bit shorter, usually 2 to 3 minutes. The other type of video that you have is on the left side of the screen here, the watch button. That will be a video clip of a lesson level video, which will be a bit longer, an instructor covering just this entire topic. All of these videos are posted and available at Hawks TV, which is an open source. So you're welcome to post these to your LMS, as well as giving them to the student in the lesson that they're reading. And this will be hopefully a good substitution for a face-to-face environment and a good refresher for students before they go through and complete problems to get an overview of what they're going to be working on. The other thing that is beneficial about the Learn mode is that you as the instructor have the ability to customize it. So you have the ability to add your own notes to the Learn mode. You're seeing a preview of that here on my screen, where, as you can see, the Hawks content is still available, so students can still read our textbook content, but below that, there is the ability as the instructor to add a note. So this could be saying this definition or example might be on your quiz. It might be you embedding a video of you working out that specific example and adding it, or you might offer an alternative definition or quick tip. You can add this here so that it's a note and they can still see the Hawks content, or you can completely replace our pages with your content if you'd prefer. You also have the ability to hide Learn screens. So if there are any examples that include question types that perhaps you've removed from the homework assignment, you can remove those pages from the Learn mode as well. But once students have gone through Learn, then we're going to want them to jump in to start answering questions, for which they'll move to the second step here, practice. And practice is just that. This is a warm-up for the homework assignment. Students will see algorithmically generated questions that they can answer for a response using this keypad for anything that isn't on the keyboard. But we do have keyboard shortcuts as well, so students can just type in the backslash to put in a fraction, or the caret key to put in an exponent, so on and so forth. But one of the things that I think is going to be most critical about using Hawks in an online course is the type of feedback that we give students when they make a mistake in the practice mode. As you can see, when I've entered an incorrect answer, it will go ahead and tell the student that they're wrong. And a lot of programs stop there or offer some sort of generic feedback. But at Hawks, we deliberately, every single time we design a question type, anticipate the common mistakes that we know students will make, so that way, when they do make this mistake here in practice, they can use this explain error to get error-specific feedback telling them why that question is wrong. So in this case, if I was asked to find the following sum, it will tell me your answer is incorrect. While you did find the correct numerator, it appears you added the denominators. And when we're adding two fractions with common denominators, you only need to add the numerators. So as you can see, it doesn't just tell the student that they're wrong, it tells them why it's wrong. And it gives them the same sort of feedback that you as an instructor would give if you were able to be sitting by every single student as they were working through every single question. And we think this is so important because homework is the time to make mistakes. And so we want this to be the opportunity where students can get that light bulb moment and correct that common math mistake so that they're not just making it over and over again and have that mistake be what's ingrained in their long-term memory upon taking quizzes and tests. From there, they can go back to practice and they can continue to skip through questions, solving the ones they want, maybe skipping over the ones that they already know how to solve. And there will be a couple of other resources here for students as they're working through questions. If they get to a question in practice and just don't even know where to start, down at the bottom left side of the screen, we've also included a link to a tutor. This will take the exact problem at hand that the student is struggling with and break it down into those step-by-step pieces. So kind of saying, okay, what are we going to do first? And the student, if they don't know, down at the bottom, they do have the choice to display the step answer, and then they can move on to the next step of the problem. But sometimes it is just that first step that will jog their memory. So at any point, note that the student does have the choice to go back to practice and continue working through the subsequent steps on their own. But let's say they're not sure how to do that first step, they need a bit more hand-holding here. They can continue to display the step answer and really walk themselves all the way through the problem. They also have the ability up here in the top right side of the screen to see the fully worked out solution. So maybe they have already worked through the problem on their own on their scratch paper. Viewing the solution would let them see that step-by-step, essentially example, but for the exact problem that they were missing, where they wrote down the similar numbers so that they can identify where they are going wrong. So this is something that's consistently beneficial for students as they're working through their assignments. And if they're still having trouble, to the right of the tutor button, there is a send to instructor option that allows students to screenshot the question type that's giving them difficulty and send it to you in that direct messaging system so that from there you can offer additional feedback to the student. One thing that's nice about that is that you're able as an instructor to reply directly to the student from your email, your school email, if you've set up that email forwarding, rather than having to sign in to the Hawks gradebook in order to reply to the student. Last but not least, we do have a try similar button, so students can get as many different versions of a question type that they'd like to practice until they feel confident with the content, because again, the whole goal of practice is to prepare for students for this final step, which is going to be the actual graded portion, which is what we call certify. So certify is our fancy word for homework. And the first thing that you'll notice about the certify mode is that it is going to be the same types of questions from the practice mode, meaning we're not now trying to trick students or throw them new content. They should know what to expect. They should know how to enter their answers. But the key difference you may have already noticed between those practice and certify modes is that now you'll see at the bottom of the screen that they no longer have that option to skip, try similar, or use the tutor. And that is something that we feel is very important at Hawks. A lot of times, unfortunately, as helpful as those learning aids can be for students that are struggling with learning the content, they can also just as easily become a crutch, so that the student is able to kind of get around to the homework, where maybe they're getting all hundreds on those homework assignments, but then when it comes time to actually take a quiz or a test, and students are then presented with the content for the first time without that help, they're going to struggle. I really want these assignments to be the opportunity for you and for students to see, what do you know before it comes time to taking that higher stakes assignment, especially because you're likely going to be assessing students on multiple sections, if not chapters at one time. And to us, we think that we really want a way of pinpointing the remediation on a topic level if there is something that the student is struggling with. So the way that we do that is by taking a unique mastery-based learning approach, which essentially means that for each topic, you'll give students a set number of questions. And then of those, they will be able to miss a few and still pass, but they must get about 80% of the questions correct in order to pass. And then by pass, I mean, congratulations, you get full credit on this assignment. So in this case, you'll notice that we've got 15 questions, and Hawks has default sets of questions already ready to go for each topic. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel and handpick all of these questions. You can just go through and pick out by topic what you want students to complete, and then they'll see our default curriculum. That said, you also, as an instructor, have full customization when it comes to editing the content within these lessons. So you can specify the number and types of questions that students are seeing. You can create your own questions. You can change the mastery level. So very, very customizable. But in this case, you'll see that of the 15 questions with mastery set to 80%, the student has a 3 in this heart, which means they've got 3 strikes or lives if you're looking at it like a game. So there is some wiggle room here. If, though, they were, in this case, to miss a 4th question. So in other words, if they fall below that level of mastery that you've deemed appropriate for this topic, probably means that if they were to take a test or a quiz right now, they wouldn't do so well. So what Hawks is going to do is we're actually going to automatically take the student from certify and place them back into that practice mode. But we're not just saying start all over, you didn't know any of it. When we're putting them back in practice, we're only going to give them the specific question types that they were missing in certify, so that then they can use that tutor, they can use the explain error, they can figure out what they did wrong. And then the nice thing for students is that after getting that remediation, they can come right back into certify, get a new set of questions and try again. And they can try as many times as they need without penalty until they can reach that mastery level, which really leads to an important motivational factor for students. We know that students are all learning at their own pace, and we think it's so valuable for students to know that every time they go to sit down at the computer to work on homework, they have a chance to pass and unlimited opportunities to do so. This is important because, as you know, homework is really the learning part of any course, and it's when pencil goes to paper that students are truly learning these concepts. So why penalize students for making some mistakes during that learning process? Because it's okay if they can make those mistakes on homework as long as they're fixing those mistakes before taking the test or the quiz. And so that's why we want to give them as many chances as necessary with the best feedback possible. But ultimately, they must prove that they've really learned the material in order to get that credit. And that's the other side of this, of course. We're not allowing students to accept just a 40 or 50 on this homework assignment and to therefore accept a corresponding level of understanding. We're really raising that bar by requiring that 80%. But again, that's why and requiring that they get the 80% without help. But that is why, again, that 100% is so important, because it really acts as that carrot on the end of the stick to get students in here, not just answering questions, but answering them correctly and holding them to that higher standard. The other thing that I always think is important to mention here is the level of customization and reporting that you have access to as an instructor. So you're able to view on a per student or per course level how much time they're spending in each mode of the software. And one question that I often get is, what about the students that just try to go right into certify and they don't know it and they get sent back to practice and they just try certifying again? That's of course not how we want this to function. And I do see value in allowing students to go right into that certify mode, because if they know it, great. If they watch the videos and they took good notes, why make them do more work than they need? But of course, we don't want them to just bang their head against the wall without really changing anything about their behavior. So you have the way as an instructor to say, okay, let them try certify, say twice. If after that second unsuccessful attempt, they're still struggling, you can require that they complete 80% of practice before reattempting certify, so that you can really control how they're really working through these 3 modes. And lastly, you also have the ability to see for any of these, not just homework assignments, but quizzes and tests that you might assign in Hawks as well. you as the instructor can also view the most commonly missed question types on those assignments. So maybe you want to do a video recording of yourself the day after a homework assignment is due, working through the top 3 most commonly missed question types on the homework. That's going to be a way to really customize the review that you're doing in your course to what that group of students is really struggling with. Lastly, I do want to share an overview of the testing platform for students in Hawks, because you as the instructor can also choose to use our library of questions to create any online quizzes and tests for students. Those can be diagnostic in nature. So if you were looking for a way for a student to allow students to test out of anything that they know pretty well, therefore just have a group of assignments to do for homework that's tied to what they're really missing, you have the ability to do this. Or you could just create quizzes and tests. Maybe they're password protected, IP address restricted. You can require that they use the Respondus lockdown browser to open their tests. So we have a good bit of testing security options for you as well. But this is also a way for students to come in and create their own practice tests as well. So they can actually jump in and choose the different chapters and lessons that maybe they want to practice and pull in any questions or lessons that they want to prepare for. So let's say they're getting ready in this case for maybe a cumulative final. Then they can choose the number of questions and even choose to practice with a time limit if they'd like. And then it will automatically create a test for them that will pull from your custom curriculum, meaning if you've gone into those homework assignments and you have removed any question types from those lessons, this will account for that as well. So in other words, they're not going to be testing themselves on things that you're not going to expect them to know on your testing quizzes as well. And just like with a paper and pencil assignment, students are able here to jump around, go back to answer questions that they may have been struggling with. And if they do, once they have gone in to complete their, or once they finish their assignment, if they haven't, it will warn them that they're not quite finished. But once they have gone and finished the assignment, it will give them a nice performance breakdown by overall performance, so they can see visually how many did I get right, partially correct, or maybe left unsimplified. But it'll also give them this nice performance breakdown by lesson. That way, if there is a specific topic where they're struggling a bit more, they can see visually where those weaknesses might occur, and then click on the lesson where they have the most pink in this case to immediately begin practicing question types that are similar to the ones that they were missing on this assessment, where again, they'll have access to that tutor, explain error, learning aids to really help them familiarize themselves with the content. Or they can go up and actually review the test. So they can open up a correct answer, again, a tutor or fully worked out solution for any of the problems here in the practice mode. So this not only gives you a good idea of a study tool that students have access to, but what an assessment, an online quiz and test might look like that you were to assign as an instructor. But I am going to see if there are any questions. So if you do have any questions, if you would please enter those into the chat, that would be great. I do see, is this the student software for online classes? Yes, this was an overview specifically of how the student software might work in an online course. We're happy to follow up with you with any specific questions that you have as well about adapting your own courses to this topic as well. If anyone else has any other questions, if you want to enter those into the Q&A box, I'll answer those quickly. I'll give y'all just a second. So I have a question of how you can upload videos. So we can send you some directions that break this down step by step, but you do have two options for uploading your videos for students. The first would be to upload those to the materials tab, and you actually do this through your instructor gradebook under the assignments tab, course materials. This allows you to upload any URLs, files, Word documents, and you can create folders if you wanted to organize by folder. So maybe you want to include a video that you've created as well as some of the PowerPoints that Hawks gives you access to, or even PowerPoints that you've created on your own. And you can upload those to the materials tab so that they can see those easily up here on the materials tab, or you have the ability, as I mentioned, to upload those directly within the Learn mode. You're going to actually do that through the curriculum. So you're going to go to the assignments tab, curriculum, and then jump into the lesson that you want to add content to. And on the right side of the screen, there will be a gear that you want to select to open the Learn mode. And from there, you're able to add your own content to those Learn screens. And we do have step-by-step directions for uploading videos from YouTube, so including a source button so that those can be actually embedded rather than just posting a link, which you can have the choice to do as well. So we'll follow up with you on that. And I appreciate all of your time and for attending. If there are no other questions, I will wrap us up for today. But as always, please know that you can contact Hawks 24/7, your training and support representative, or just call Hawks and you'll get a real person right away. Use that 24/7 chat. This support is going to be consistently available, not just for you, but for students during this time, since we know that it's more important than ever to make ourselves available to answer questions. So even though we're working from home, please direct us questions anytime that you have them, and tell your students to do the same. But I really appreciate your time today. We will follow up with these recordings, and thank you so much.